Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the Minute Waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, and also to welcome to the programme four exciting, dynamic personalities. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Sue Perkins, and seated on my left, Andy Hamilton and Gyles Brandreth. Please welcome all four of them. And as usual, I am going to ask them to speak, if they can, at different times on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling. She's going to help me with the score. She'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we're going to begin the show this week with Gyles Brandreth. Gyles, Anonymous. Would you talk on the subject of Anonymous, Gyles? 60 seconds if you wanted, starting now.
Don't worry if a job is small and your rewards are few. Remember that the mighty oak was once a nut like you is a well-known verse, and yet we are not aware of who the author might be. He or she is anonymous, possibly the younger brother of Hieronymus Bosch, a 16th century painter who our knows had fraternal relations who were interested in poetry. I love these anonymous poems.
Poetry and poems, my fault. No, it was an incorrect challenge. He was so excited there was almost a medical intervention at that point. But no, I thought it was poetry and poems, so I incorrectly challenged.
So it was an incorrect challenge, Gyles. So you get a point for that. You keep the subject. There are 33 seconds still available. Anonymous, starting now.
There was a young man from Peru whose limit...
Sue challenged.
Repetition of man.
There was a young man.
There was a
from
man in your... Wasn't there a man in your earlier...
No.
Is this your first man, Gyles?
This is my first man. You've all got to come out eventually, and I have. This is my first man.
Then I apologise. That's my second.
Surely there are still young men in Peru.
There's only one that's interested in Gyles. We shall hear about it, I'm sure.
So, Gyles, another incorrect challenge. Another point to you. Yeah. And 29 seconds still available. Anonymous, starting now.
Late last night, I slew my wife, laid her on the parquet flooring. I was loath to take her life, but I had to stop her snoring. This is another of the verses by this extraordinary creature I know as Anonymous. I suspect it is a female person because they are much more modest than men would be. An arrogant of the male species would come out bragging, I wrote that remarkable epic, but...
Sue challenge.
Is there now repetition of men?
No! That's the joy of it. I was so enjoying coming towards it, knowing I hadn't said man, thinking I'll tease her with men. I'd use creature.
That's the third time in a minute I've fallen into your web, you dastardly fiend.
Yeah. This is known as verbal flirting, Sue.
That's not what it will say on the charge sheet.
No, he's played the game quite a lot, Sue, and you haven't played it for a while, and so he's playing a few games there with you.
That's a very kind way of
another incorrect challenge, but another point to you, Gyles. 7 seconds still available. Anonymous, starting now.
I eat my peas with honey, have done it all my life. It makes them taste quite funny, but it keeps them on the knife.
Sue challenge.
That is definitely a repetition of life.
What?
Knife, he said. I've done it.
Have I gone mad?
Yeah. I think he said he eats his peas with a knife. I've done it all my life.
And before he said life, I'm sure. But there's a silence in the room that says to me, it's time for me to go back to the sanctuary.
Sue, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
I feel very bad on listening to this back again, if that's an incorrect chat. I think so.
Don't pretend that you'll listen to this, Sue.
I won't.
It doesn't matter. At your expense, he's gained a large number of points, so it's quite fair now. You get a point, and you have 2 seconds if you want to. Anonymous, starting now.
Anonymous is something Gyles Brandreth will never be.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. It was Sue Perkins. She's now in second place behind Gyles Brandreth. And Sue, we're with you to begin. The subject is Geysers. Tell us something about Geysers, starting now.
Vinnie Jones, Jason Statham, Guy Ritchie. Geysers! Geysers! Or, of course, they can be used to describe the eruptions of water that emerge from the Earth's crust. I know just a little about geysers. Of course, they have to happen near volcanic elements. So deep magma, of course, will be the thing that heats the H2O. And from there, due to pressurization and strange scientific forces way beyond my personal remit, you will suddenly get this...
Andy challenge.
Remit.
What about it?
That would mean that Sue had a remit to be scientific.
No, I think she was conveying, but beyond what she knew. And that would be the remit.
All right.
All right?
Yeah.
I thought you were doing your famous frog impression.
I don't know whether you were looking puzzled or informed.
No, I was just being pedantic. Or was it pernickety? I'm not sure.
So, Sue Perkins, an incorrect challenge, a point to you, and you still have geysers and 27 seconds starting now.
Yellowstone Park, I believe, has geysers, and Iceland is liberally dotted with them. I've never seen one in the flesh, but I imagine you would just marvel at the stupendous force and potency of the liquid as it suddenly hit the skyline. I presume that people like to have a bath in them or enjoy a very intense douche. Who knows what they get up to? But if you were to witness one...
So Sue Perkins was speaking as the whistle went, gained the extra point. She started with the subject, finished with the subject, got points in the round, and she's still in second place, but only just behind Giles Brandreth and ahead of the other two. And Paul Merton, we're with you to begin. And the subject now is predicting the weather. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Well, it's one of those things that some people always complain about. The weather forecasts never get it right, as if by design the Met Office would employ idiots who don't understand the scientific principle behind predicting the weather. It is, of course, a very tricky science to do, because there is also an art form. Which way will the clouds blow today? Sometimes eastwards, westwards, northwards. It's very difficult to say exactly where the rain is going to happen. And yet somehow you hear individuals, sometimes they drive cabs, other times you meet them at a clandestine meeting of the Nicholas Parsons Appreciation Society, who have now been barred from every entertainment venue in... Oh, no. Going too fast.
What was that last remark about me?
Oh, it was very pleasant.
Yeah.
What was it?
Nicholas Parsons Appreciation Society.
I heard that.
We meet once monthly if you want to come along.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so unusual to pay me compliments, Paul.
Yeah. That's what threw me.
Giles, you challenged first.
Yes, it was hesitation. Really
Yes, it was, yes.
grinding to a halt.
19 seconds are available for you to tell us something about predicting the weather, starting now.
The most extraordinary people I know to predict the weather are those based in Iceland. I was in Reykjavik watching television, and there was a Sue Perkins lookalike who was referring to a shower as a douche. That got me going, and I thought, this is really the way weather should be.
Paul's challenge.
Have we strayed from predicting the weather?
No.
No.
We're with weather people in Iceland, in Reykjavik. I'm watching the television. There is the weather person looking like Sue Perkins, telling me about the forthcoming shower that's actually going to be describing it as the word douche.
That's right.
Is this Groundhog Day?
Absolutely.
Quite meta, hasn't it?
Giles, an incorrect challenge. 5 seconds still available. Predicting the weather, starting now.
The people who predict the weather are quite remarkable, and I admire the ones who work for the British Broadcasting Corporation.
At the end of that round, Giles Brandreth, speaking as a whistle when, gained another point, and he's increased his lead at the end of that round ahead of Sue Perkins and Andy Hamilton. Paul Merton trailing in third place, and Giles, we're with you to begin. And the subject now is tapas. Tell us something about tapas, starting now.
I was taught tapas cuisine by the great cook Fanny Craddock, that wonderful cross between Mary Berry and Jeremy Clarkson, who years ago invited me into her kitchen and showed me a cover. She said, "This is the Spanish word for tapas." And so it was. What you do...
She said, this is the Spanish word for tapas, but tapas is a Spanish word. Yeah. If she said it's the Spanish word for donut, that would be sense, but she's saying this is the Spanish word, which is a Spanish word.
She was indicating the cover, and knowing that I would be talking about this on Just a Minute in 40 years' time, She helpfully transliterated.
You're really struggling.
I'm
really
struggling.
So, Paul, correct challenge. And strangely enough, you've got your very first point.
Thank you for that huge surge of indifference.
And there are 40 seconds for you to tell us something about Tapas starting now.
Tapas, the most essential Labrador I ever met. Everything about him was golden. His brown hair wasn't exactly the colour that... it wasn't golden, was it?
Yeah.
It was brown.
Everything about him was golden, and then it was suddenly brown.
Yes.
Although golden brown, of course, the famous song.
Golden brown.
Texture like sun.
Yeah.
Gyles, you have another correct challenge, another point in 33 seconds. Tell us more about Tapas starting now.
Tapas is a Spanish word, also...
Yes, do
Repetition
challenge.
of Spanish.
You mentioned the Spanish word before.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think I'd got round to that.
Oh,
Yes, you
I
did.
thought I was stopped.
She was a Spanish lady telling you in Spanish it was tapas.
during your portrayal of a very drunk Fanny Craddock.
Okay.
That's...
No, Fanny didn't drink, actually.
Didn't she?
Not as far as I remember when I was with her.
And if there was ever an occasion when she was going to have a drink, that would have been it, wouldn't it? That would have been it.
So, Sue, a correct challenge, 30 seconds. Tapas starting now.
Tapas, tempting little plates, patatas bravas, prawns simmering in garlicky olive oil, delicious bits of meat that may once have been a horse. Who knows? I don't care. It is so evocative of the Mediterranean. Little hints of paprika.
Gyles challenge.
Repetition of little.
Yes, there was too much little there.
Yes,
right.
little plates.
So you're very sharp today, Gyles, and you got back in with 14 seconds on Tapas starting now.
Amigos, I wish to speak to you in a funny language.
What's the Spanish for amigos?
I thought it was Welsh.
It's a Welsh Chechnyan. It was a very complicated broth, that accent.
No, it's...
It was deviation from any known language.
Yeah.
So what's your challenge when the rules are just a minute?
He's lost his marbles.
Oh, I don't know if that can be a recent challenge.
It's a historic one.
I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, Sue, and say you've got Tapas. And 11 seconds, Sue, starting now.
There's always sausage. Of course, why wouldn't there be? Lumped in a terracotta plate oozing with its own oil.
Paul
Oh,
challenge.
no, I don't know. Did you say plate or plates before?
It was oil, she repeated.
It was oil, she repeated, but
That
just
has
too
got
late.
nothing-
Why are you talking about me as if I'm not here? I think he's right. So plates and plates.
Did
yes,
I was going to say
oil,
I was going to say repetition of plates, but I'm not
Well,
sure.
that was incorrect,
No.
Paul. So, Sue, another point to you.
Oh, God.
And there are 4 seconds still available on Tapas starting now.
Perfect. Bring them in.
Andy challenge.
That's a very long first syllable for perfect. Also, I just wanted to get involved, if I'm
No,
honest.
fair enough. And I'm delighted, to be honest.
All right, so I've given the benefit of the doubt to Sue, and Andy, you have it now, and you have 3 seconds on Tapas starting now.
There's a tapas bar in the street near my home.
So Andy Hamilton was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He has crept forward. He's still in 3rd place, but he's crept. And it doesn't matter,
Again,
Andy.
the story of my life.
It's lovely having you on
Yeah,
the show. And you're going to tell us something now because it's your turn to begin on buying a rug. 60 seconds.
This is personal. There's a complaints procedure, Andy. Yeah.
60 seconds if you want it. Buying a rug starting now.
Buying a rug is something I have never contemplated doing, even though I have been bald for nigh on 30 years.
Are you bald? I thought your neck was blowing bubble gum. I'm so pleased to have the opportunity to use that.
No, Andy, I'd say you might be bald on top and not at the sides.
Yeah.
I think that's an incorrect challenge. So, Andy, another point to you. And 52 seconds. Buying a rug starting now.
The reason I resist buying a rug is that working in showbiz, I meet a lot of friends and colleagues who have invested in a hairpiece, who have carpeted their cranium in the belief that it will look like they are holding back time's winged chariot, whereas in reality, they look like a small mammal has crawled onto the top of their head and died.
Gyles,
I felt there was quite a hesitation.
There was a hesitation. You paused for the laugh.
I was thrown by the laugh. Thinking,
I know.
it was the last thing I was expecting.
The last thing any of us were
Yeah.
Gyles, you got in first. 28 seconds still available. Buying a rug starting now.
On the beach in Jamaica, there are people who sell rugs. And once when I was there, walking towards me along the Strand was this wizened little old nut-brown lady. When she arrived here, I realised...
Paul Challenge.
This is the anecdote about Mick Jagger. Tells his story many times in just a minute. It always starts, this old brown, wizened old lady came up to me, and then I realised it was Mick Jagger. So I said, this is the Mick Jagger story, thereby killing both that and this moment at the same time.
But that is repetition, isn't it? Only across a period of years.
Yes. Well, it's a bit like 3D chess. It makes it very difficult if we've got to keep in mind the last 50 years of show.
Gyles, an incorrect challenge. Another point to you. 16 seconds. Buying a rug starting now.
It was, in fact, Andy Hamilton, wearing upon his head a curious peruke.
Andy Challenge.
Well, I'm not... It was...
A nut-brown, wizened little old woman.
Deviation from fact, surely.
Yeah, absolutely, Andy.
Wizened, I'd accept.
No, I don't accept that.
Nut brown, I don't think so.
We were in Jamaica, remember?
Woman, Gyles. Woman.
We were never in Jamaica together, Gyles. Let's get that perfectly.
I agree with you, Andy. An incorrect challenge. You have a point. 11 seconds. Buying a rug starting now.
Buying a rug is quite a challenge, I understand, if you are in a town in the Middle East, because the salesmen are very persistent and they chase you down the street saying...
Paul Challenge.
Street? No, not
No, he didn't repeat street. No.
I made it up.
Another point for incorrect challenge. Oh, and only 2 seconds is left.
Yeah.
Buying a rug starting now.
I have never seen...
So Andy Hamilton was then speaking as the whistle went. Gained that extra point, and he's moved forward. And Sue, we're back with you to begin. And the subject now, the Acropolis. Talk on it if you can, starting now.
The Acropolis is an extraordinary ancient citadel that perched itself above Athens. Also the name of my local kebab shop. And the two are linked by the fact they both sell 5th century meat. So, the Acropolis was a collection of buildings, the Parthenon being the most legendary. And I believe it was mentioned in Homer's Odyssey, where, of course, Odysseus spends an awful long time trekking back home to Ithaca, whereupon his missus is furious because she'd had the lamb in for best part of a decade. Now, this great set of monuments is there for people to stare at with great joy as they come as willing tourists.
Gyles Challenge.
Repetition of great.
Yes, you talked about the greats before, the Parthenon.
Thank God, because I exhausted my knowledge about the Acropolis in the first 3 seconds.
Gyles, a correct challenge. You've got him with 18 seconds to go. The Acropolis starting now.
After the holiday that Andy chooses to forget, from which he returned nut brown, may I say so, but looking very attractive, wearing a chest wig, but nothing...
Paul Challenge.
We haven't got anywhere near the Acropolis yet. Is that just down from the chest wig, or...?
We are going to celebrate at the little restaurant that Sue mentioned, the Acropolis.
Can I change seats?
You might want to change clothing after this.
Well, who do you want to change with, Andy?
I don't know. It's the lady in the third row.
Right, Paul,
I'm
a correct
curious,
challenge. 8 seconds available. The Acropolis starting now.
Of all my favourite Labradors, undoubtedly the Acropolis was mine. Everything about it was...
Gyles Challenge.
This is ridiculous. You would not call an animal after an inanimate object.
You might.
No,
What
you
do you
wouldn't.
mean?
You wouldn't.
But also-
You
How
wouldn't.
dare you? Albert Bridge, my spaniel, will be furious.
But
Excuse me.
I've got a cat called Brent Cross Shopping Centre.
in Giles's defence, which is not a phrase that comes easily to me, Paul did say the Acropolis. It's odd to give a dog a name with a definite
Maybe
article.
he had lots of dogs called Acropolis, but there was one that stood out, so he called it the Acropolis.
That could be me
Underlined
speaking.
the Acropolis.
Imagine calling it that on me.
Sometimes in this Just a Minute we work in the world of fantasy, and there's nothing to stop Paul Merton calling a dog the Acropolis if he wants to. I mean, it says
And nothing
something...
wrong with me taking Andy to a fantasy restaurant called the Acropolis.
No.
At least there are restaurants called the Acropolis. There are no dogs in the history of humanity that have been called the Acropolis. It's canine chaos. Once you start calling dogs the Acropolis, it's all over. I blame Brexit.
Let's not get excited. We all know this round is only a ruse so that Sue can get cheap kebabs.
Yeah, but with 5th century meat, I'd expect them to be cheap.
Give Gyles a point for passion, and you get a point for that, Paul, and you've got 3 seconds to go only. The Acropolis starting now.
His big round eyes looked up at me. And he said, why have you called me the Acropolis?
So Paul Merton was speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and he's moved dramatically forward. But he's only 1 point behind Andy Hamilton, 2 points behind Sue Perkins, a few more behind Giles Brandreth. And Paul, we're back with you to begin, and the subject, a nice theatrical one for you, Lucille Ball. Tell us something about that fabulous creature, starting now.
Lucille Ball, very popular American entertainer from the 1950s onwards, with the Lucy Show and variations of that afterwards. She was also a powerful figure in Hollywood, co-owning the studios Desilu, which made the television programmes, and also rented themselves out to other shows like Sergeant Bilko.
Oh, yeah.
That's my fault. I'm sorry, show and shows. Incorrect challenge, sorry about that.
Don't apologise.
No,
Paul gets another point. 43 seconds, Paul, starting now.
At a time when it was rare, she was particularly physically adroit and was very good at slapstick falls and the like. There was a horrendous statue that was commissioned about 10 years ago by her fans that looked absolutely horrendous. A great big round...
Giles challenge.
Repetition of horrendous.
Why?
Yeah.
Well, saying horrendous twice is a sort of...
It's nice to have the game explained, isn't it?
Yes, he did say horrendous. Lucille Ball is with you, Giles. 31 seconds starting now.
Curiously, we used to have a red setter called Lucille Ball because of the colour of her coat, and we really enjoyed having fun with her. Interestingly, in the television series, the great actor...
Yes, Paul...
Did we have a repetition of the word interestingly?
Yes, we did, indeed.
Ironically enough.
So, Paul, you go back in with 18 seconds to go on.
18.
You, Lucille Ball, starting now.
A new figure was commissioned and it was a much better likeness.
Giles Challenge.
Repetition of commissioned. I think we had commissioned about
Yes,
the
it's
earlier
true.
statue.
You had a...
Maybe, yes, could have been.
It's possible.
Yeah, it is certainly possible.
You've got to have a hell of a memory for this show, haven't you?
Not really. It was about 34 seconds
No,
ago.
you people just never let anything go, do you? It's amazing.
We should just chill out.
Yeah. That's my
14
limit.
seconds, Giles. Lucille Ball, starting now.
She was 40 years of age, I believe, before...
Sue Challenge.
Can I just say that red setters don't live to 40 years of age? I mean, maximum, if you treat it well, it's 14.
Yeah.
But he didn't establish he was talking about the red setter.
No, I was back on Lucille Ball.
But Lucille Ball is your red
The
setter.
famous... Yes.
Oh, he's messing with
There
my
have been
mind.
2 balls in my life.
Not for long if you carry on like that.
Sue, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And 12 seconds to go, starting now.
Her marriage to Desi Arnaz was a thing of great...
Andy Challenge.
Wasn't he Desi Arnaz Jr.?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Yes.
It's Arnaz rather than Arnaz.
Arnaz was the dog.
All in all, it was a very...
That
And
caused
it wouldn't
confusion.
matter whether it was junior or senior. She was still married to Desi Arnaz.
That's true. Again, I just wanted to be involved. And slightly pernickety.
Listen, I gave Sue the benefit of the doubt then. I'll give it back to you now, so we hear from you on Lucille Ball, starting now.
Lucille Ball was my comedy idol when I was starting out. A lot of people think it would be Tony Hancock, but no, I wanted to be Lucille Ball.
So, Andy Hamilton, speaking as a whistle went, gained that extra point. And we're moving into the final round. Andy Hamilton, Sue Perkins, Paul Merton are equal in second place. But they're trailing Giles Brandreth, who's out in a very strong lead. And Andy, we're with you to begin this round. Oh, tennis rackets. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I live very near the spiritual home of tennis, that is Wimbledon. So for a fortnight, every summer, we are subjected to tennis rackets, nuisance noises that drift across from the courts of the All England Club. The biggest of these tennis rackets emanates from Maria Sharapova. With her whoops and yells and shrieks, she manages to excite the entire local fox population.
Sue challenge.
There was another little hesitation.
There was, but it was a lovely pause and lovely thought. And Sue, it's with you now. 32 seconds, tennis rackets starting now.
It's a little-known fact that up to 20 years ago, tennis rackets were made from a hewn oak tree with a little bit of catgut strung between it. Nowadays, we have graphite. Rackets that weigh just a few pounds and delicate to the touch, with perfectly poised handles, so that
Gyles challenge first.
Hesitation.
Yes, and you've got the tennis rackets, and 15 seconds, Gyles, starting now.
Who was it whose teeth were said to be so large that they could eat an apple through a tennis racket?
I've no idea. Paul.
Mick Jagger.
So what a deviation, is it?
Yeah, deviation, definitely.
I think it was deviation. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Paul.
Yeah.
So we hear from him, because there's only 9 seconds to
Only
go.
9 seconds left.
Tennis rackets starting now, Paul. Who's challenged?
Oh, I did.
Right, hesitation. Paul, you've challenged yourself.
I challenged myself, yeah, hesitation.
You're absolutely right. A correct challenge. Another point to Paul Merton. Paul, 8 seconds to go. Tennis racket starting now. But don't do it again.
Repetition of banana.
Rubbish.
Oh, that sounds like an incorrect challenge.
Yeah, another point to Paul.
Another point to Paul Merton. 7 seconds to go, Paul. Starting now. Hello. Sue challenge, yes.
So sorry, that was deviation. We all know lizards have got absolutely nothing to do with the modern tennis racket.
Sue, we hadn't even started.
Well, it was an incorrect
Another point to Paul
What I was going to say.
So, Paul, 7 seconds to go.
Hang on, I'm
tennis
smelling
racket.
a fix here. I think...
I'd just like to point out at the moment...
Starting now.
Oh, and as I looked at the tennis racket in my hand, I realised Bjorn Borg on the other side of the net was looking at me. He might have been the world number one.
I'm going to give you the final situation. Andy Hamilton, Sue Perkins are equal in third place, only 1 point behind Paul Merton. But out in the lead, a very commanding lead, was Gyles Brandreth. So if you're interested in points, we say, Gyles, you are the winner this week. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine, humorous players of the game, Paul Merton, Sue Perkins, Andy Hamilton and Gyles Brandreth. I thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score. She blew her whistle with such style after the 60 seconds elapsed. We're grateful to our producer, Victoria Lloyd. We're deeply indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. From the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, thank you. Tune in again the same time when we take to the air and we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. But also to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, dramatic, talented people who are going to play this game. And today they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Zoe Lyons, and seated on my left, Jenny Eclair and Rufus Hound. Please welcome all 4 of them. And as usual, I am going to ask them to speak on a subject, and they're going to try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me is Hayley Sterling, who's going to run the stopwatch for me, and she'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the heart of Broadcasting House. And we have a lovely, hyped-up audience ready to get going. And we can begin the show this week with Paul Merton. Paul! Oh, a lovely phrase. Apples and pears. I'm sure you know a lot about it, but tell us something about it in this game, starting now.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the subject apples and pears is Cockney rhyming slang. Apples and pears mean stairs, and this hidden language is invented so that policemen and people that you didn't want to hear what you were saying would be baffled by such phrases as apples and pears. Now, it was first believed by Dr. Justin Scroat.
Rufus has challenged.
There was a hesitation.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Rufus. That's terribly sharp. And, I know you haven't played it much before, and I know you're keen.
He's setting a standard.
The problem is that because I know this game is played to be a game, that if I don't buzz, Paul will think less of me.
I will. Whereas now I think more of him.
But
Rufus, admittedly a low base.
I don't think it was... Even if he paused, I don't think it was long enough to challenge. So if you'll forgive me, I can say it's an incorrect challenge.
I'm delighted not to have to do anything.
Well, Paul, it was an incorrect challenge, so you get a point for that.
How many seconds left?
42 seconds still available. And you start... Apples and pears, starting now.
The apple and the pear. Let's consider them both in detail. Oh, no, let's not.
Zoe, you challenge.
That was definitely a hesitation.
That was a hesitation. Zoe, correct challenge. A point to you. Take over the subject. 36 seconds available, starting now.
Apples and pears, of course, come in very many varieties. My favourite pear variety is the conference pear.
Rufus challenge.
Variety?
Yes, repetition of variety.
No. One was varieties and one was varieties.
Yes.
She slid the words together. Her diction was sloppy. I would say sloppy diction, but that isn't part of the rules.
Take sloppy diction.
Just a minute. Sorry, Nicholas, it's your job to do that.
No.
I thought if I can't win, at least I can be helpful.
Well, Jenny, thank you for your helpful backup. I didn't know you were going to do that for me, but I was exactly what I was going to say. But I wouldn't have said it as well as you did. All right, incorrect challenge, Zoe. You still have the subject. 30 seconds available. Apples and pears, starting now.
My favourite apple is the gala apple that does very well at swimming events. It sort of bobs around.
Paul.
Repetition of apple.
Yes, because it's apples in the plural.
Oh. I know.
It's so easy,
There's someone who's
this game,
played the
isn't it?
game a lot, yes. Because on the subject is apples and pears.
Apples and pears.
It's a wicked game, isn't it?
Even my sloppy diction couldn't get me out of that.
Paul, a correct challenge, a point to you. Take up the subject. 23 seconds available. Apples and pears, starting now.
Eve stood in the Garden of Eden. She proffered the apple to Adam, and he said, I'd prefer a pear. But this was before Carry On film, so it was not seen as an ironic, sarcastic sexual remark whatsoever. The apple stood proudly. Before it, the pears...
Oh, Jenny challenge.
Hoist by his own petard. He repeated the singular of apple twice. It sounded like plural because the apple stood, but it wasn't. It was the apple.
All right, darling, don't go on anymore. I agree with your challenge. He was in the singular there. And you've got him with a point, Jenny, and you've 7 seconds on apples and pears, starting now.
Women are either apple or pear in shape. Apples swimming.
Oh, you challenge.
hesitation, I'm afraid.
Well, I think it was. We have to interpret that as
yeah.
hesitation. Yeah.
And I repeated women.
Yeah.
I know. The only reason I was hesitant there was because there was only 1 second to go.
Shame, isn't
So,
it?
Paul, it was a correct challenge.
Shame.
So we give it to you. 1 second. Apples and pears, starting now.
Coxes, conferences.
So for those interested in the score, it is obvious at the end of that round, Paul is definitely in the lead. Zoe, we'd like you to begin the next round. Here's an interesting subject, a road trip. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
Life can be considered something of a road trip at times, just bobbing along, trying to avoid the potholes along the way. My favourite road trip that I ever did was in Australia when I was in my 20s and had things I could just...
Rufus, you've challenged.
I just thought I was being helpful.
Yeah,
Zoe looked pained.
It's
hesitation.
There was hesitation. You were
Sorry.
right this time. Absolutely. And you've got the subject, and you've got 45 seconds. You tell us something about a road trip, starting now.
4 young men squeezed into a Vauxhall Cavalier on their way to Cambridge. This was 1999.
Oh, Jenny challenge.
Are there lots of 9s in 1999? Am I being spiteful and petty?
1999.
All different, yeah.
My maths is appalling. I'd like to apologise to everybody. I'm sorry, Rufus.
No, it doesn't matter. That's the fun of the game. Challenging and trying.
Yes.
And
getting it wrong.
Rufus hasn't played so much, so I'm delighted he's got a point. And you've got the subject, Rufus. There's still 37 seconds for you on a road trip starting now.
And so it was that we set off drinking a box of wine directly from the...
Zoe challenge.
Surely that's against the law.
Well, it could be against the law, but he might be telling a true story.
Yeah.
This is true, but I was
And
just
even if
concerned
it
for
isn't a
health
true
and safety
story,
there, Nicholas.
He still wasn't hesitating, deviating, or repeating anything. So we've got another point. And
I am not too big for pity.
31 seconds available, Rufus. A road trip starting now.
When we arrived, it was to visit a friend of ours who was at the university there, and we proceeded to be absolute tearaways.
Jenny challenge.
Hesitation.
It was a hesitation, yes. 23 seconds available, Jenny. You tell us something about a road trip starting now.
It's very important to prepare for a road trip. I suggest a large bag of wine gums per 100 miles. Also, a pork pie in your glove compartment, little sachet of English mustard. Just because we're travelling doesn't mean we're not savages. We are not savages. Oh!
Paul, you challenge.
Repetition of not savages.
Yes.
Sadly.
I protesteth too much.
I know, and once again, Paul, you've got him with 3 seconds to go. Yes,
I'd complain if I were you. There must be somebody we can write to
those
about
are
this.
the,
Do we have to put up with this?
rules of the game.
It's the rules of the
There's no clock he's watching here to say ticking down or anything like that. You know, someone's got a challenge if she makes a mistake, and it was Paul came in first. 3 seconds, Paul. A road trip starting now.
Bob Hope, Bing Crosby, The Road to Morocco. Also...
Right. So Paul Merton was again speaking as the whistle went, gained an extra point for doing so. He's increased his lead ahead of Rufus Hound and Jenny Eclair and Zoe Lyons. Right. I remember at one show you were on, I called you Zoe Gale, didn't I?
That's right,
Because that was my period, you see.
Yeah.
She was a lovely singer in...
1846.
Yeah. Often get confused with people from that period.
You don't look a bit like her, darling. She was red-haired and sang. She was in Strike a New Note at the Prince of Wales Theatre.
Yes, 1943.
1943. Well done, Paul. I can't give you a bonus point for that. Oh, Rufus, we'd like you to begin the next round. Do you know anything about Halley's Comet?
I know something of it.
Oh, good, because that's the subject, and you have 60 seconds if you need it, starting now.
Halley's Comet comes around once every 75 years or so, and this I know basically because the last time it so did was in 1986, and I was 7 years old, and the teacher at the front of the class explained to us that the next time this...
Jenny challenge.
Time. Twice.
Time comes on, yes. Halley's Comet is with you, Jenny, and there are 45 seconds starting now.
Halley's Comet actually appears on the Bayeux Tapestry. Did you know that? It was deemed to be a portent of either good or ill, depending on which side you were on. Also, Halley's Comets...
Zoe challenge?
A little bit of ran out of steam there, a little bit of hesitation.
Yes, we interpret that as hesitation.
I thought of something clever and then it stopped.
Yeah, that's the story of my life, Jenny. Oh, I have nothing on
You
this.
thought of something clever and it stopped you.
Zoe, you had a correct challenge. You get a point for that. You take over the subject. There are 30 seconds still available on Halley's Comet. Starting now.
Halley's Comet would make the perfect house guest because it appears so infrequently. Once every 79 years is about right for a visitor to one's own home. It can be seen by the naked eye, which is good because eyes are normally nakedy.
I'm going to say repetition of I.
No, eye and eyes.
Eye and eyes. Singular and plural it was, yeah.
No, what did you say, Zoe? You said eye and eyes.
Eye and eyes.
Yes.
Eye and eyes.
Oh, well. We like keenness, but it was too much. 14 seconds are still available. Zoe, you've got another point. You have Halley's Comet still starting now.
Of course, it's best to observe it through the lens of a magic kaleidoscope-type thing that scientists use when they put towards their ocular...
I felt an enormous sense of pity upon me, and I felt I was rescuing.
I totally knew where I was going with that.
Hesitation. It was hesitation.
I couldn't remember the word for telescope.
No. Kaleidoscope wasn't a bad go.
It was pretty close, wasn't it?
With a kaleidoscope, you tend to see lots of shiny colours.
Yeah.
I like the idea, though, that we'll get the Hubble kaleidoscope. What have you found? Everything!
Paul, there's still 5 seconds available.
Don't worry, I'll make them seem longer if that's what you want.
I have to reiterate, those are the rules of the game. That's how we play. The challenges and everything, we make it fun.
So enjoy yourself! Stop booing!
I love having you on, Rufus.
Yes.
Because you let us know that you're here.
I'm the enforcer. That's how I like to think of myself. Paul's Gary Lineker, just hanging around near the goal, knocking them in at the very end.
5 seconds, Paul, still available. Halley's Comet starting now.
Halley's Comet was, of course, first spotted by Sir Edmund Halley, who wrote in a book I've seen it.
Right. So Paul Merton was speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's only 2 points ahead of Zoe Lyons, and she's only 1 point ahead of Rufus, Hound, and Jenny Eclair in that order. If you're interested in the points, we're more interested in the fun. And Jenny, this is a very intellectual show because we've now got the Abacus.
Oh.
It's a bit challenging.
Can't you swap it for something else? I'll have a go, but it's not going to be very good.
Well, darling, that's the subject that's come up. The Abacus. 60 seconds, Jenny, if you want it, starting now.
The abacus, as we all know, is a wooden frame with rods and similar material balls which one can slide along, used for counting in the olden days before apps, when we still had fingers. And these days, of course, we don't have to bother with any...
Rufus, challenge.
Repetition of days.
Oh, yes.
Days.
Yes, at the beginning you said those days, the abacus, and then in days again. It's gone very quiet, hasn't it?
I'm weeping silently, it's fine.
Rufus, you've got a correct challenge. I've got another point to you. Take over the subject. There are 38 seconds available. The abacus.
Good luck, mate.
Starting now.
Sorry.
Well, I think I confused you, didn't I?
No, Zoe confused me, and she did it deliberately.
Well, no, it's not fair. We won't count anything on that. I must say that you have got 36 seconds, it was, the abacus, Rufus, starting now.
Benny, the music you write is derivative. It's the kind of thing that only a moron would come up with, said Bjorn. And thus, the abacus was born.
I'm almost inclined to give you a bonus point for inventiveness. But who challenged it? It was Zoe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And what was your challenge?
It was a bit of a hesitation.
Was
After a beautiful delivery of abacus, though.
Zoe, it's still the abacus. It's 25 seconds available if you want it, starting now.
Every primary school child when I was little had an abacus in the classroom, and we would sit there counting our beads in absolute delight of the marvels of mathematics. 4 little red W things on the little... Oh!
Jenny, you challenge first.
Littles.
Little representative, little, yes. Correct challenge, Jenny. Another point to you. 6 seconds available.
6 seconds.
Yes. That's all. Starting now.
The abacus that my grandmother left me in her will was an item of such...
I'm surprised nobody challenged you for deviation. Did you really leave it in her will?
Yes, she left me an abacus. No, of course she didn't.
That's what I thought. Right. So Jenny Eclair was then speaking to whistle win, gained an extra point. She's equal with Rufus in second place, 1 point behind Paul and 1 ahead of Zoe Lyons. Paul, we're back with you to begin. Paul, the subject now, Margate. Tell us something about that resort in this game, starting now.
Margate by the sea, the home of Who's William Turner?
Zoe, you challenged
There were
first.
2 Williams in there.
two Williams.
I didn't mean William Turner, I meant the painter.
Is it William Turner?
It is William, is his name?
Yeah, I think
I was
it is,
right all along.
Yeah, you turned on that too soon.
Yeah, never mind.
Zoe jumped in with 56 seconds still left. Another point to you, Zoe. And the subject is Margate, starting now.
Margate, that classical Kent seaside town, so well loved. The last time I visited Margate was to perform a gig in the Winter Gardens there in said Margate. It's a beautiful Victorian building perched near the sea. I like to eat fish and chips when I go to Margate because it's the thing you do while you are beside the coast. Also, it does have quite a strong art history to it. Not only is it the home of that aforementioned painter...
Sadly, hesitation.
Well done. You win for many seconds there. Don't know how many, because I
I had
can't
no idea I
subtract.
had that much information on Margate.
But, Paul, there are 24 seconds available
24, yes.
Yes. You've got another point. You've got Margate. You've got the subject of Margate, I should say, starting now.
As I wandered around the late-night streets of Margate, I was aware that there was a pair of burning eyes burning into the back...
Rufus, challenged.
I was a bit quick off the mark there, but
You
it
were.
felt like a hesitation. But it could have just been an in-breath, a dramatic in-breath.
It was.
I immediately stand down.
It's nice to hear from you. But it was an incorrect challenge.
Fair enough.
And so, Paul, you've still got Margate, and you've got 16 seconds starting now.
Tracy Emin is somebody that lives in Margate, and indeed she has contributed to the new art gallery that has been built nearby. It is a wonderful building, and many people travel from all over the world and say to themselves, I am going to see the hidden treasures of Margate.
So Paul Merton, speaking as the whistle when gained that extra point, has increased his lead at the end of the round. Zoe Lyons were with you to begin, and the subject now, the gift of the gab. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
The gift of the gab is something that the 4 people I am playing this game with have been naturally given at birth. We are able to talk without deep...
Paul challenge.
No, I had to learn how to speak. I was probably about 14 months, 18 months. I wasn't born with the gift of the gab. It would have been a hell of a surprise for my mother.
You just popped out. Ta-da!
Hello, how you doing?
Technically speaking, you're
Oh,
right,
a hell
Paul,
of
you
a
are,
journey.
aren't you?
Yeah, so I'm glad to get out of there.
It's interesting because, in a deeper sense, you could be born with a gift, but it didn't express itself till later life.
Oh, well, yes, that's true.
But it's just latent. It's just waiting to be...
It is a latent gift.
It's a latent
It
gift.
is,
So
that's
it is
right.
there,
It is
essentially.
there, it is
just
there.
needs to be teased out.
Teased out, yeah.
Yeah. I have the dilemma, who do I give it to?
Give it to Zoe.
Paul, as you're in the lead, Paul,
can have it.
well done, Paul. You're
Oh.
very generous.
Yeah. I've
So
got
we
a
leave it
pity
with you,
point.
Zoe, and you still have 52 seconds to tell us something about the gift of the gab starting now.
I have many friends who have been bestowed the gift of the... Oh,
Jenny challenge.
Hesitation and deviation
There was a
from
hesitation,
language
yes.
that we
There are 44
recognise.
seconds are still available. You had a correct challenge. You got a point. The gift of the gab starting now.
What do you buy someone with everything? The gift of the gab. Trouble is, I've got draw loads of gabs I don't want anymore. I have small gabs, big gabs, pink gabs. I know what
Gabs.
I've done.
yes.
Oh, is it the old singular and plural?
You've over-gabbed.
Zoe, you challenge
Too many
first.
gabs.
Yes.
Too many
and,
cabs.
Too much cab. 35 seconds are still available. The gift of the gab with you, Zoe, starting now.
Despite having lost this initial round slightly early... Oh! I can only apologise.
Why?
That was a definite little hesitation.
Yes, a bit of a hesitation.
It was a bit of a hesitation.
Yes.
It was.
Yeah.
All right, Paul, you have 33 seconds still available on this subject. The gift of the gab starting now.
So I went home the other night. I said, this fella, how much do you want for that car? He said, well, I wouldn't normally tell it to anybody, but I'll let you have it for a £5. Oh, yeah, but that's not bad, Charles. So I went and got a horse, and I said to the horse, will you... Oh, no, that's something like
Zoe, you challenge first.
There were 2 horses in there.
Yeah.
You were galloping with the horses.
Zoe, correct challenge for you. 24 seconds available. The gift of the gab starting now.
Paul was referring there to the Blarney Stone, which is in Ireland, and if you do kiss said piece of state...
Rufus, you challenge first.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation, so you're all going to have a go on this subject. 17 seconds still available, Rufus. The gift of the gab starting now.
I have a 6-year-old daughter called Hilda who undoubtedly has the gift of the gab. Very happy is she to bicker away.
Jenny challenge.
Well, I think... Why did you call her Hilda?
We certainly can't be challenged on what we've called our kids.
I'm teasing. I actually think it's a delightful name. I was being stupid. Sorry about that. Does she wear a headscarf round there? Does she have little curlers in? Does she go to school with a curlers in and a headscarf? Eh? Does she smoke a little fag to start like that, eh? Stan? What are you doing up my back passage, Stan? Sorry, this has got... I don't know where I've gone with this.
Jenny, we enjoyed your interruption so much, and the animated demonstration you gave us will give you a bonus point for that. But it was an incorrect challenge, because she can't challenge on the name of your daughter, really.
Well, and considering that was a challenge by a woman named after patisserie...
10 seconds still available, Rufus. Gift of the gab, Rufus, with you, starting now.
What I have found interesting, however, is that as a little girl, she is often accused of being a chatterbox, but if it was a boy, he'd be told he was confident. So why do we deride women for speaking up, and yet...
So, Rufus Hound was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so, and we are moving into the final round. That's very kind of you, thank you.
Just very quickly, in answer to the question, why did we call her Hilda?
Yeah. Was it sponsorship?
We do have... We have a journalist in from the Daily Mail, so it was Margaret Thatcher's middle name, and it's a fitting tribute.
What a thing to put onto a child.
Yeah. She got the easy line, though. My son Adolf is furious.
I'll give him a bonus point. And
Hilda
also...
Hound? Hilda Hound.
Hilda Hound.
Nice, good.
She's going to be a rock star.
Or cartoon. One or the other.
I said we were moving into the final round.
Yes.
So I give you the scores we do. It's very close. Jenny Eclair is just trailing 1 point behind Rufus Hound and Zoe Lyons, and they are just 1.5 points. 2 points behind Paul Merton. Rufus, we're back with you to begin.
You lucky things.
Pompeii, Rufus, tell us something about that amazing place starting now.
I was taken to Pompeii at the age of 13 by some middle-class parents who were definitely posher than the parents I had. I was so pleased with myself for not saying middle-class twice that I said parents twice.
Yes. 2 sets of parents.
I know. But Jenny, you got in first. We know what the challenge is. Repetition. You have the subject of Pompeii. There are 51 seconds available starting now.
Pompeii was one of the few times at school I sat bolt upright and listened. What a tragic tale. You know what happened? This Vesuvius thing blew its stack, spewed its guts all over the city of Pompeii, freezing people as they went along their business in molten ash and fetid fume.
Paul challenge.
Can you be frozen in molten ash? There seem to be 2 extreme temperatures going on there.
Yes.
Do you end up sort of in a tub of warm water?
Yeah, I think we could interpret that as deviation. Paul, the correct challenge, and there are 24 seconds available for you on Pompeii, starting now.
From my youth, I remember the television series very well. Up Pompeii, starring Frankie Howard, written by Talbot Rothwell. I don't know if our esteemed chairman Nicholas Parsons ever worked with the aforementioned comedian, but he has virtually been employed with every great star of the show business firmament. Pompeii, when we think of that magnificent place, we come to mind the images of people saying to each other...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went and gained an extra point. Paul, knowing the way you pull my leg regularly, I'm surprised you didn't say that I was actually there. It's the sort of thing you often do, but you do it so well.
I wish I'd thought of it.
Well, we have an interesting situation here. We have 3 people equal in second place, Zoe Lyons, Rufus, Hound and Jenny Eclair. So, Paul, you've just got ahead of them, and so we say you are the winner this week. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine, exciting, humorous players of the game, Paul, Merton, Zoe Lyons, Rufus, Hound and Jenny Eclair. I thank Halley Sterling for helping with the score and blowing the whistle for me so well. We are indebted to our producer, Victoria Lloyd. We're deeply indebted to the creator of this amazing game, Ian Messiter. And we're indebted to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre who've cheered us on our way magnificently. From the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons and the team, thank you. Tune in again at the same time when we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, and also to welcome to the show 4 exciting, dramatic performers. Seated on my right, they are Tony Hawks and Sheila Hancock, and seated on my left, Jenny Eclair and Phill Jupitus. Please welcome all 4 of them. And as usual, I am going to ask them to speak, if they can, on the subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Halley Sterling, who's going to help me with the score. She'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And let's begin the show, this time with Jenny Eclair. Who better? Jenny, an interesting phrase, Sunday lunch at mine. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
Sunday lunch at mine will kick off around 4 p.m. when I've just got up, and will consist of whatever leftover rider sandwiches I may have from the previous night's gig. These may contain...
Phill challenge.
2 maize.
Oh, yes.
Don't want any maize.
No.
Get rid of the maize.
So,
a bit
Phill,
political then.
Phill, you've got in with 45 seconds to go. You've got a point, of course, there for a correct challenge. Sunday lunch at mine is the subject, starting now.
Sunday lunch at mine consists of whatever I can lay my hands on in the fridge. Such delights may include fish or vegetables. I prefer a salad for Sunday lunch, which is one of the greatest meals of the week. Sometimes family will come and attend Sunday lunch at mine, including my mother, father, brother and sister. Oh, the dishes that they will sit before them and eat will be manifold, and they will also enjoy wine with that Sunday lunch at mine. The wine might be red or white. You see.
Sheila, you challenge first.
2 wines.
2 wines.
A bit
2
too
right.
much wine, unfortunately.
Story of my life, Nicholas.
Sheila, you had a correct challenge. You get a point for that. There are 16 seconds available. Sunday lunch at mine, starting now.
Sunday lunch at mine would be more or less the same as Sunday lunch on any other day, because it would be in a bucket.
Oh, Tony challenge.
Well, how could it be Sunday lunch on any other day? It would have to be Monday lunch then, wouldn't it? Or Tuesday lunch?
Not necessarily. She conveyed to me that the ingredients would be the same as any other meal.
Yes, right, that's right. That's exactly what I meant.
I bow to your brilliant logic.
I will ask the audience. That's how I interpreted it. Would you agree and say yes? Oh, the audience disagree.
You can have
I have
it.
to go by the superior wisdom and judgment of our beautiful-looking audience here.
Well, I was admitting I was wrong.
So, Tony, the audience say you were right, so you get a point for that. 7 seconds available. Sunday lunch at mine, starting now.
A few weeks ago, I was on this show with Sheila Hancock and I invited my home eyes to see shampoo. Now...
Jenny, you've challenged.
Oh, terrible deviation from anything that we've heard before of the English language and hesitation and a mess.
It was a mess, but he somehow kept going. He didn't actually hesitate, did he? I don't know. What do you think, audience? You couldn't care
They
less
don't know.
now, right?
They really...
And he got the benefit of the doubt last time. Tony Hawk said, you're going to get the benefit now. 3 seconds, Sunday lunch at mine, starting now.
Gravy is the most important part of Sunday lunch.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. And it was Jenny Eclair. She's got 2 points. The others have all got 1. And Phill, Jupitus, we're with you to begin. The subject now is giving up the ghost. Talk on it if you can, starting now.
Giving up the ghost is something that I'm considering doing right now because my ability within this quiz is somewhat limited. It is giving up the ghost, which is the feeling that seizes one when one's abilities don't quite match up to the I must stop now.
Tony, you challenge first.
he was going so well, but there was a hesitation.
It was a hesitation.
Yeah.
46 seconds available, Tony. Giving up the ghost, starting now.
Giving up the ghost is absolutely something that you should not do in this game, not a quiz as Phill referred to it, because it's all about keeping going, regardless of whether you're filled with information on the particular subject on which you are speaking, which is clearly the case now, right now for me. Okay.
Jenny, you challenge first.
Oh, I can't remember what he did now.
You just said the word now.
Yes, he said now loads of
I
times.
know you said the word now as well.
Did I?
Yes, you did.
What did he do?
Now.
He repeated. Just
He
take
repeated repetition.
Give it to me. I buzzed as well.
Darling, you will have it in seconds. Get that finger on that buzzer, because I guarantee I've got about 2 seconds in me, okay?
Well, Jenny, you did get the point.
Thank you for that.
Very correct challenge. And there are 30 seconds available. Giving up the ghost, starting now.
Imagine if you were a ghost and you gave up the ghost. What would that mean? You wouldn't want to haunt anyone anymore. You wouldn't want to...
Oh, Tony challenge.
Yeah, repetition of wouldn't.
Yes. Yeah. 20 seconds are still available, Tony. Giving up the ghost, starting now.
I gave up the ghost in 1974. It was an aperture. And I can...
Sheila challenged one.
No, it's a hesitation, wasn't it?
I think so. It was almost.
Was he waiting for
it was
a laugh?
clearly a hesitation,
It was a
and
dramatic
I thought
pause.
no one was going to buzz me.
No. He was close to it, and I give the benefit of the doubt on occasion. Sheila, you have it. And 14 seconds available. Giving up the ghost, starting now.
I believe that this started in the Bible when Jesus was crucified, just to bring a light moment to this show. And the phrase was, and he gave up the ghost, which...
So Sheila Hancock, who's then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. And Sheila Hancock, Tony Hawks and Jenny Eclair are all equal in the lead. And Sheila, it's your turn to begin. The West End. Tell us something about the West End, starting now.
Well, the West End is generally regarded to be Soho, Shaftesbury Avenue, Kensington. When I was a little girl growing up in King's Cross, we used to talk about going up west, which now I realise was barely 5 feet away. However, it seemed like somewhere extremely glamorous. And indeed it is, apart from the drunks and the idiots and the thieves and drug addicts, it is...
Oh, no.
Full challenge.
I was going to say repetition of drugs, but it was drugs and drug.
Drunks, I said.
Drugs and drunks.
Sorry, I've just...
Don't apologise.
It's an area of interest for me.
So, Sheila, an incorrect challenge, and you have the subject still, and there are 30 seconds available. The West End, starting now.
It's most actors' ambitions to star in the West End, or rather, should I say, it used to be, because now a lot of the interesting stuff is happening in what we call the fringe, which is the outskirts, the rather offbeat shows that most actors would actually...
Phill challenge.
2 actors.
Well listened, Phill. And there are 11 seconds available still. The West End starting now.
I used to travel to the West End from Essex, where I lived, on the train with my friend Brian. And we would go to the shops to buy comics and badges or records. And sometimes we would go to... Good one.
So Phill Jupitus was speaking when the whistle went, and he's moved forward. He's equal in the lead with Sheila Hancock. Tony, we're with you to begin. The subject, Venus. 60 seconds, Tony, for Venus starting now.
When I was at school, a teacher said to me once, Hawks, you've got to remember that Venus is not as big as Uranus. And I thought this must have been a mistake on his part until somebody took me aside and explained what he actually meant by this. Venus is his name. That is a wonderful part of a song.
Sheila challenge.
Oh, is it really a part of a song?
Yeah, Venus is his
because I was
name.
going to say Venus is usually a woman.
No, Venus is his name, but,
No,
well, it was written
Venus was her name in the song.
Is it?
Oh.
By the...
Shocking Blue.
Shocking Blue, yes. Sheila's challenge is correct.
And now,
Thank you.
We're helping each other out, I'm sorry.
I think for your knowledge and contribution, we should give you a bonus point for that, Phill.
Thank you, sir.
Sheila, you had a correct challenge. 35 seconds available. Venus starting now.
Well, I know that she is a woman because I have seen that amazing statue called the Venus de Milo, which is of an enormous lady with one arm, incredibly.
Jenny challenge.
I thought she had no arms. I thought that she was completely armless.
I can't argue with that. I'd have to look it up on...
Phill, come on.
The Venus de Milo does indeed have no arms.
When in doubt, go to Philippedia.
He knows his art and his music. He knows nothing.
She did have one arm years ago.
Venus is with you, Jenny. 22 seconds available, starting now.
There are so many Venuses, but my favourite is the Venus flytrap. What an extraordinary carnivorous plant this is, trapping flies and digesting them with peculiar juices internally. Also, Venus Williams. What a smashing tennis player that girl is.
So, Jenny Eclair kept going till the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so, and it's an interesting situation. Jenny Eclair, Phill Jupitus and Sheila Hancock are all equal in the lead with 5 points, and Tony's only 2 points behind. And Sheila, it's your turn to begin. Oh, a lovely subject, a gooseberry.
Oh.
Tell us something about a gooseberry in this game, starting now.
I am very fond of a gooseberry crumble. It's tasty. It has a slightly sharp edge to it. You do need to add a little bit of sugar or honey. I'm sounding as though I know how to cook, and in fact, I am the worst in the world. However, if I'm forced on just a minute, I will give a recipe, which is to mix flour with brown of the what I was talking about before, and then tossing it into the oven, and out comes this beautiful dish. A gooseberry can also be a person that is in the middle of a couple that want to get at it and have to be stopped because mother and father don't approve. I seem to remember that I had to play a gooseberry several times for my sister Billy, who was older than me and used to have the most glamorous boyfriends. And in fact, one of them had a motorbike, which she wouldn't go on, so I did.
Well, that doesn't happen often in this game. Someone begins with a subject and goes without hesitation, repetition or deviation for the full 60 seconds. So she was speaking with a whistle when, gets a point for that, and a bonus point for not being interrupted. And what has happened? Well, she's taken the lead, just ahead of all the others. And Phill Jupitus, we're back with you to begin. An ode to a Grecian urn, starting now.
An ode to a Grecian urn is a poem with which I am not familiar, so I should go elsewhere with my reverie. What is a Grecian urn? Well, he may be part of a Grecian comedy duo. Perhaps the Grecian Morecambe and Wise is who I am talking about. ode to a Grecian urn might be 17 drachmas. That is something which might be ode to a Grecian urn.
Oh, we enjoyed that, Phill. Thank you. Jenny, you interrupted. You saved him. You've got 23 seconds starting now.
Oh, Grecian urn, I am concerned about your health and safety as you tremble on the side of the table, not stable. If you fall...
Sheila challenge.
Did you say 2 tables then?
Probably.
Yeah, I think so.
I said stable.
Did you?
Yeah, you're not stable on the edge of the table.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Incorrect challenge. Jenny, you've still got an ode to a Grecian urn. 10 seconds starting now.
You will break your neck. Oh, what the heck? Not worth a penny. My inheritance lies shattered on the floor, oh Lord.
So, Jenny Eclair was speaking as a whistle when I'm not quite sure I knew what you were talking about.
Kind of broken poetry. It was broken poetry, Nicholas. It was like an...
I realised that,
yeah,
but it still
poetry.
didn't make much sense.
No, didn't have to. Most poetry doesn't. Have you read any? Good Lord.
Right.
I thought it was rather good.
Thank you, Sheila.
Sheila, it's your turn to begin. Oh, lovely subject. Pyjamas. Tell us something about pyjamas starting now.
They're known as Jim Jams in my family, or even Jimmies, and I don't wear any. All my life I have slept with nothing but, as Marilyn Monroe said, Chanel No. 5. However, now I've got older and I don't share a bed with anyone, I don't give a damn, so I wear a filthy old T-shirt sometimes. However, it's just occurred to me, I am thinking of buying some silk sheets, and if I do that, I'm going to have to wear something a lot.
Phill challenge.
2 wears.
Oh, right.
You were wearing them before, I'm afraid, Sheila.
Yeah.
So, Phill, 27 seconds on pyjamas starting now.
I, like Sheila Hancock, eschew bedwear. Pyjamas are something that I have never had in my life. The shorts are something that I wear when I'm wearing as well. I did what Sheila did, I'm wearing. You see?
Sheila challenge. Sheila, your challenge?
Well, a repetition of wearing and wear and all
hesitate.
sorts
Right.
of things.
Sheila, it's back with you. Pyjamas, 16 seconds starting now.
I will pursue what I was saying before. I have decided now I will buy myself some satin pyjamas, and I will enjoy looking in the mirror at my wizen old body covered in this lovely, super shiny...
So Sheila Hancock was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and she's taken the lead, just one ahead of Jenny Eclair and Phill Jupitus and Tony Hawks in that order. And Tony, we're back with you to begin. Pocahontas, will you tell us something about that character in this game, starting now?
When you find a Hontus, whatever colour it may be, please don't poke it. If you poke a Hontus, it will become furious. It may grab you by the neck, throw you to the ground and say, I will not have you do this to...
Third you. I let it go for a lot of you.
Yes, you did, yeah.
You'll get it back, darling, don't you worry.
Well, listen, Jenny, 39 seconds available on Pocahontas starting now.
Now and again, fashion will have a Pocahontas moment, which means we are all supposed to go round in fringed suede. However, at this point, I opt out. I'm too old for plaits. Look ridiculous. The original Pocahontas, of course, was this Native American girl, very beautiful, a bit like the Disney bird. And she came over to England where she died quite young, around 30, very tragic end. Not sure that's in the cartoon movie. But anyway...
Tony challenge.
Hesitation.
Unfortunately, yes. I say unfortunately because you've got in with 2 seconds to go. 2 seconds on Pocahontas, Tony, starting now.
Cilla Black once said to me...
So Tony Hawks, speaking as whistle and gain that extra point as move forward. He's still in 4th place, actually, just one behind Phill Jupitus. And Jenny, we're back with you to begin. The subject, evening classes. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Do you know, I once enrolled for poetry classes at Morley College in South East London, and the...
Tony Challenge.
Didn't do you much good, did it?
Cruel! Take all his points off him for cruelty.
No, what I'll do, my darling, I'll give you a point because you were so rude to you.
I get a bonus point for the massive laugh.
No, Jenny gets the point. So, Jenny, you have 53 seconds. Evening classes starting now.
At the introduction evening, the tutor read out the fire instructions in such a beautiful, melodic way. I thought it was a poem he'd written and clapped at the end. How extraordinarily talented, I thought. And then he pointed to...
Tony Challenge.
I refuse to believe that Jenny could do anything as stupid as that.
Genuinely true. It is a genuinely true.
It doesn't matter what we're doing there because this just makes things utterly fair. You got a point because you were rudely interrupted. Tony, they got a very good laugh, so we give you a bonus point for that. But Jenny's still got the subject, and she was interrupted, so she gets another point. And we've still got evening classes, Jenny. 32 seconds starting now.
There are so many evening classes that you can attend. For example, car maintenance, French speaking, cookery. In the old days, back at the 70s, you know, people...
Phil Jones.
Wait, it wasn't so much hesitation as you started being William Shatner in the old days back at the 70s.
Trying not to say in the... Yeah, I know. You're absolutely right. I give up, I give in.
Okay. So your challenge is what, Phil?
It's hesitations.
All right, we give it to you, the benefit of the doubt. And Phil, you've got 19 seconds. You tell us something about evening classes, starting now.
I would very much like to take an evening class in pottery, where I could sit at the wheel and have the clay in my hands with the water and fashion perhaps a Grecian urn, which would be in front of me, and then I could fill it with Retsina, that delicious beverage which people love in the part of the Aegean Sea where...
So, Phill Jupitus, speaking as a whistle away and gain that extra point. He's moved forward. He's in a very strong second place behind our equal leaders, Sheila Hancock and Jenny Eclair. And Phil is with you to begin again.
Whoa.
My internal monologue. I don't know what it means, but you can talk about it if you can. 60 seconds, starting now.
My internal monologue is usually saying what I should not be ordering at a restaurant. It shouts quite loudly, not that item or that, you know. Or that, yeah, too. That's quite
well, it's a repetition of not as well, what I should not be ordering.
Yeah, too much that, right. Tony, you've got in with 52 seconds to go. My internal monologue starting now.
Last week I checked myself into a hospital and had my internal monologue removed. The operation took 3 days and was entirely successful, but which makes it difficult for me to speak on this subject, given that I've said it no longer exists. However, it may be in a basket somewhere in the corner of the ward. Let's all go there now and have a look.
Sheila, you've challenged.
No, don't let's. Don't let's. Hesitation.
Oh, yeah, I think deviation from common sense as we understand it. But we enjoyed that excursion into the realms of the surreal, Tony. Sheila, a point to you, and 25 seconds available. Tell us something about my internal monologue, starting now.
Everybody has an internal monologue, and it's usually very destructive. Mine is that I am going to fail, I'll be frightened. So what is my solution? I think I've discussed this on Just a Minute before, but it won't be repetition because I haven't done it in this turn. I go to a hypnotist, and that works absolutely brilliantly for me. For instance...
So, Sheila Hancock, speaking as a whistle Wayne, gained that extra point. And we're moving into the final round. And Sheila, you've just got that extra point. Tony Hawks is trailing a little for once in third place, equal with Phill Jupitus. And they're 2 or 3 points behind Jenny Eclair. And she's 2 points behind Sheila Hancock. And Sheila, you start the next round. It's changing the rules, starting now.
Changing the rules is a very good idea.
Phil Chalice.
Offside.
I'm sure you haven't got a challenge within the rules, have you?
She said changing the rules was a really good idea.
Right. I'll give you a bonus. I'll give you a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption. But Sheila gets a point because she was interrupted. And he's still changing the rules, Sheila. 56 seconds available starting now.
I think particularly lung people should always... I'm talking about people who have lungs that have... people who have a lung illness.
Suddenly we have the Japanese Sheila Hancock with us.
So, Tony,
Deviation.
Why?
From the English language. She tried to say young people and said lung people.
Yeah, no, I meant lung people.
That's what you've got to adjudicate on whether you think Sheila meant lung people.
Let me go on and I'll prove to you that I meant lung people.
No, darling, you will manage to waffle your way out of it, but... I think you did mean young people. So I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Tony. 53 seconds. Changing the rules, Tony, starting now.
I think they should change the rules in football. When they get to extra time, they should bring out bigger goals. It would be so much more exciting. It would be 10-4, 9-3, 6-5, something like that, instead of this terrible, turgid, kicking a ball around, being really defensive.
Sheila challenge.
Ball. Have you said ball before? No, right. I'm determined to get back to you for the lung thing.
Tony, incorrect challenge, another point to you. Changing the rules, 36 seconds, starting now.
If we were to change the rules in this game so we were allowed to repeat things, wouldn't it be a more peaceful, pleasant time that we all spent together instead of this picky, terrible...
Right, Phill, you challenge.
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't.
Deviation,
Deviation, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. Deviation. Wow.
I mean, it's obvious. If you changed the rules and could repeat words on Just a Minute, there wouldn't be a Just a Minute show.
I feel, though, that was your challenge, Nicholas. That you somehow, foisted that upon Phill. He didn't want a challenge there.
He hasn't played the game much before, and he was looking a bit forlorn there. And there are only 24 seconds to go, and he's trailing a bit. So, Phill, it's nice to hear from you. Well done.
Thanks.
And we've got changing the rules. 24 seconds, Phill, starting now.
I refuse to speak on this subject. Change the rules.
Change the rules. Sheila, you challenge first.
Hesitation.
Definitely. You've got 21 seconds still available, Sheila. Changing the rules, starting now.
Lung people have to constantly change the rules because they can't breathe properly. So they have to always carry a machine on their backs. So...
Tony, challenge.
There's no such thing as lung people. People that have something wrong with their lungs, they don't call them lung people.
They do.
Those lung people
you go
over there.
into any hospital and the doctor will say, that's the ward with all the lung... the lung people.
They're people of restricted lungs.
They're not lung people, they're poor, unfortunate, ill people.
Yeah.
We don't line them all up and mock them, saying, look at you stupid lung people.
No. I agree wholeheartedly with you, Tony. And I admire you, Sheila, for trying to justify your slip-up there. Tony, there are still 12 seconds to go on changing the rules starting now.
I think we should change the rules on what we call people in hospitals. For instance, say if you have a problem with your lungs, instead of calling them Mr. Whittaker or Jenny, if you wanted to be more informal, you could call...
So for those interested in the points and the scoring, I will give you the final score. It's Jenny Eclair, Phill Jupitus and Tony Hawks all equal in second place, but 3 or 4 points ahead was Sheila Hancock. So we say, Sheila, you are our winner this week. So it only remains really to say thank you to these 4 fine, humorous players of the game, Tony Hawks, Sheila Hancock, Phill Jupitus and Jenny Eclair. I think Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score and blown the whistle with such aplomb. And we thank our producer, Victoria Lloyd. And we're deeply indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. So from our audience, from Neil Litchfield Parsons and the team, goodbye, thank you, and tune in again when we take to the air and we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the Minute Waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. But also to welcome to the show 4 exciting, dynamic personalities who are going to play this game and show their skill with words and language as they try and speak for just a minute, if they can, on a subject that I give them without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4 are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Zoe Lyons, and seated on my left, Jenny Eclair and Rufus Hound. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling, who's going to run the stopwatch for me, and she'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And Jenny Eclair, we'd like you to start, and the subject is 2020 vision. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
The last time I had 20/20 vision, I was 8 years old. And then I visited my ophthalmic optician who said, try and read those letters. I could get the big one, no more after that. So a few weeks later, a hideous pair of specs were put on my sweet little face, and I glanced at my physog in the mirror and was so depressed. Where was the blonde beauty? Who was this straggly, greasy-haired girl? Bit fat, ragged round the edges, crumpled clothes. Ugh, don't like her. It was me.
Paul, challenge.
Have we strayed from 2020 vision?
Yeah, I think we have. She's describing the girl who lacked 20/20 vision.
Yes.
So I think that is deviation. So, Paul, is a correct challenge. You get a point for that, of course. You take over the subject. There are 22 seconds still available.
I don't think you know how traumatised I was by this. There we go. I was very welcome to the subject.
Listening to the catalogue of self-hatred, I can only believe it.
For 20/20 vision's the subject. 22 seconds starting now.
I have a vision for this country. It'll take 3 years to get there, but when it does, everybody will say, that's a 2020 vision. Because it's about... What are you groaning at? It's about having... Oh. It was the second groan that put me off. I thought I'd cope with the first groan, and then there was a subsidiary groan which I wasn't prepared for. I admire your persistence.
It was like groan surfing.
Yeah.
Right. You rode the first wave beautifully.
Yeah, I thought it was all right.
Yeah.
Then suddenly out of nowhere.
So, Rufus, you challenged first. What was it?
Hesitation.
It was hesitation, yes. So, Rufus, you get a point for that, of course, and you take over the subject. 12 seconds are still available. 20/20 vision starting now.
I went to the opticians and he showed me the chart and he said, which of those letters can you read? And I couldn't see any of them and say them aloud. So then he said, turn your back and try again. And I could read all of them because hindsight is 20/20.
So Rufus Hound was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so, and you won't be surprised to hear he's in the lead at the end of the first round. And Rufus, we'd like you to begin the next round. And the subject now is, I'm sure you know something about this, Shirley Temple. Tell us something about that iconic child film star, starting now.
There I was in the middle of the Atlantic looking out at the shipwreck in front of me and wondered where it had all gone wrong. If only there had been someone small enough to climb into those engine chambers and fix the malfunction that had occurred there within. Oh, how I rued my time on the HMS Lollipop. If only there had... No.
Zoe challenged.
I think there were 2 if-onlys.
Yeah.
2 if-onlys.
Yes. Well, listen, Zoe, correct challenge, a point to you. 39 seconds still available. Tell us something about Shirley Temple, starting now.
Shirley Temple was not only a child star in Hollywood in a period of time, but it is also a mocktail, or a drink that doesn't have any alcohol in it. It is made from ginger ale and grenadine, and I enjoy a Shirley Temple on evenings when I have to be sober and astute and aware and concentrate, very much like being on this show. I have partaked in a Shirley Temple prior to appearing on this program. Yes, I did slip a little vodka.
Rufus, you challenged.
Preparing.
Preparing.
Yeah.
preparing.
Deviation from the English language, as we understand it. 14 seconds for you, Rufus, and you've got another point, of course. Shirley Temple, back with you, starting now.
Every little girl born since 1930 with blue eyes and curly hair has at some point been referred to as Shirley Temple. She exists as an archetype almost of infant cuteness.
Rufus Hound, speaking of the whistle, Wayne gained that extra point, and he's taken the lead now.
By the third show, I'm going to be absolutely rinsing it.
Zoe Lyons, your turn to begin. And the subject is ballroom dancing. Very popular at present. 60 seconds if you need it, starting now.
Ballroom dancing is a marvellous thing to watch, the way they glide across the floor effortlessly, their feet tippy-tapping away, swishing and swashing are their dresses, and their trousers are tight and really lovely around the old bum area. I wish I was good at ballroom dancing, but I'm not, I'm afraid. I have no coordination whatsoever. I resemble a rhinoceros in clogs whenever I try to attempt to dance in any way, shape or form. It has become very popular of late, the old ballroom.
Rufus challenge.
Old, lots of old ballroom dancing, old this, old that.
Old that.
Round the old bum area.
Around the old bum area.
Rufus, you're not only listening well, you are learning fast in this game.
I'm endeavouring.
You're not endeavouring, you've endeavoured. 28 seconds available. You've got another point for a correct challenge, and you have the subject of ballroom dancing starting now.
Ballroom dancing. There's Latin and there's the more traditional kind. Such.
Jenny challenge.
He hesitated.
I think you did actually hesitate.
Yes.
Enough to give it to Jenny and say, you have 22 seconds still available, Jenny. Tell us something about ballroom dancing starting now.
I used to love watching ballroom dancing with my grandmother on her Parker Knowles sofa. What a load of clod-hopping court.
Very challenge.
Cars.
Right.
Horses, I was trying to say.
There was a bit of a hesitation.
There was a definite
And why were they
hesitation.
ballroom dancing on your sofa?
It was all go in Polton Le File.
A Parker Knowles sofa was very smart and sophisticated.
She'd done well for herself.
Right. And Zoe, you've done well for yourself. You've got a correct challenge. And you have 10 seconds still available. Ballroom dancing starting now.
Ballroom dancing has become increasingly popular on our television screens, which seems like such an unlikely thing to want to sit and watch, yet we do. It comes from the Blackpool...
So Zoe Lyons, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. She's moved forward. She's still in second place behind Rufus Hound, but she's ahead of Paul Merton and Jenny Eclair, equal in third place. Paul, it's your turn to begin. And the subject now, a classical one, Homer. Tell us something about Homer in this game starting now.
In the game of baseball, when you hit a home run, it is referred to as a homer. This is something that has been inherent in the sport right from the very beginning. Today, when we think of various homers that we know in the world, we think, the philosopher, of course, there wasn't anything great. But one also brings in the cartoon
Rufus,
character.
you've been challenged.
Have I?
Yes. Rufus, what was your challenge?
Well, I'm just not sure.
Repetition
It is a word. Yeah.
It could be repetition. I think we've got to stop him from doing sort of this rubbish. Surely the essence of Just a Minute is to keep going without hesitation, repetition, or deviation.
Absolutely.
But with clarity.
I'm going to write that
Without
down.
clarity.
Clarity. Yeah, sure,
Clarity,
absolutely.
right.
Absolutely.
Rufus, we give you the benefit of the doubt, and we have a point, of course. You have Homer. 46 seconds starting now.
As a young man trying to work out what in the world most turned me on, I realised nothing quite did it like...
Oh, what? What? Like what? Like what? What is it? What?
Jenny.
I know now.
He hesitated.
He did hesitate,
He
yes.
might have been on the brink of something miraculous.
Well, you can tell us now, were you on the brink of something miraculous?
Maybe I'll buzz in again. I'll try and pick up from where I
I was
left off.
scared of what he was on the brink of.
Anyway, Jenny, you have a correct challenge. A point, of course. 37 seconds available for you. Homer, starting now.
Oh, Homer Simpson is hilarious. He's part of that family on the telly, you know. Blue hair is his missus, dad to Maggie, Bart and Lisa. He's a fool, isn't he? But very, very hilarious.
Oh, yes.
Rookie mistake.
Repetition of very. Do you hear that?
Paul, I'm sure you're trying to mock me.
I was just being clear.
I know you are succeeding.
Clarity.
But you have a correct challenge.
Oh, that's very kind of you.
Not at all. 24 seconds still available, Paul.
Yep.
And you have the subject back with you. Homer, starting now.
Homer, a great character certainly created by Matt Groening, who based all the names of the Simpson family on members of his own clan. And what a brilliant cartoon it was. First featured on the Tracy Ullman show back in the 1980s, it revolutionised the world of animation on television. Back in the 19...
Oh, yes, Zoe challenged.
Two backs.
Two backs.
Oh, yes,
Two backs. There were two backs.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, Zoe, and you've still got 4 seconds if you need it.
4
on
seconds.
Homer, starting now.
Homer was, of course, a Greek poet who liked to prance about in his toga, and he had pockets in the...
And you gave us the classical association, which I'm sure everybody was waiting for. Zoe, well done.
Glad to oblige.
And you will have a point for speaking as the whistle went, and you gained at that point, of course, and you're now in second place behind Rufus Hound. And Jenny, it's your turn to begin, and the subject is a solar eclipse. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting...
The solar eclipse happens when a moon crosses the sun. At some point, there is just a halo of light which you must not look at with the naked eye. Who did the other week? Trump, the idiot. Of course he did. Standing on his balcony, showing off. Would he wear lenses to protect himself? No way. I'm the biggest prat on the earth. I will stare at this ridiculously bright light, but obviously it's not going to do me any harm because I am superior to anybody else who can't look at such a ridiculous...
Paul, you challenge?
Hesitation, sadly.
Yes. Paul, you have 21 seconds if you need it on a solar eclipse starting now.
A solar eclipse back generations ago was considered a rather spooky event as the moon floated across the sky and in front of the sun, temporarily blotting out the light that gives us energy and fire and all associated things like heat. But then they didn't realise back in them times that it would only be...
Oh, Jenny challenged.
Another back, 2 backs.
Oh, 2 backs.
Yes, 2 backs. Well, listen,
Yes.
Jenny, yes.
Yeah.
And you cleverly got in with 2 seconds to go.
I'm sorry, isn't that when you normally groan?
Anyway, Jenny, correct challenge. 2 seconds available. A solar eclipse starting now.
The scariest thing that happens is all the birds.
So Jenny Eclair, speaking as a whistle went and gained that extra point. She's moved forward. She's in 3rd place. It's equal, actually. It's 1 point separating all of them. Rufus, we're back with you to begin. Sunflower seeds. We do get around in this show, don't we? Tell us something about sunflower seeds. 60 seconds, if you need it, starting now.
Sunflower seeds are the perfect topping for a salad if you want everyone to know you're a ponce. Otherwise, they are for gardeners to place in soil. A gentle pat down, a light watering, and you place them outside. Often...
Jenny challenged?
2 places.
Yes, to place some right.
Yes, fair enough.
So, Jenny, a correct challenge. 45 seconds are still available. Sunflower seeds starting now.
Sunflower seeds are the fruit of a sunflower, an extraordinary plant.
Zoe challenge.
I think it's deviation because they're not a fruit. No. But then I might have... I'm taking the word fruit too literally.
Can we Google?
It's not...
May we Google?
It's not a fruit, though, is it? It's not a fruit. Because a fruit has to have seeds in it. If it's just a seed, it's just a seed.
Darling, darling, as a gardener, I can tell you, sunflowers do have seeds. And from those seeds, more sunflowers grow.
So they are the fruit of the sunflower. Yes, OK.
I don't know what you're arguing about.
No, I'm just... It's not a fruit, though, is it?
Like a
Am I
tomato
taking
is
it
a
too
fruit.
literally?
I think you're taking it slightly too literally,
We're
Zoe.
taking it too seriously.
Yeah,
I just haven't said anything for a while.
But do you know what? I don't think I'll be going for very much longer.
Okay.
All I can say is stand by.
But people do eat sunflower seeds,
Yes.
so they can be.
Yes. That wasn't my argument.
I know it wasn't. But I was trying to be fair within the rules of just a minute. And I'm going to give Jenny the benefit of the doubt and say you've still got 40 seconds, Jenny. Sunflower seeds starting now.
I don't really like them all that much, to be quite honest with you. Sometimes I pick them off the top of bread. That's quite a nice activity. They're very good for budgies, makes them regular, so I've heard. Mind you, that means a lot of newspaper changing. I don't know, really, what else can you do with them? They come in a husk, and you put them in your mouth, and you have to fiddle about with your teeth, and then they get stuck, and all that nonsense. So eventually what happens is you spit the
Paul challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes,
I was about to repeat the word husk.
Paul, a correct challenge. You have sunflower seeds. Talk about in 11 seconds available starting now.
Sunflower seeds. I went to the shop with a handful of sunflower seeds and I said to the man behind the counter, "What will you give me in exchange for what I have here? Look at my palm."
So Paul Merton, seeking the whistle win, gained that extra point. He's moved forward. He's equal with Zoe in second position behind Jenny Eclair, and Rufus Hound are equal in the lead. And Zoe, it's back with you to begin. And the subject is apple bobbing. Tell us something about that activity in this game starting now.
Apple bobbing is an activity that you participate in around the Halloween period. It's where you put a lot of apples in a bowl of water and then you have to bob for them. I find the whole idea utterly horrific because I'm quite a hygiene freak. So I don't use said fluid, as Fawley mentioned.
Rufus challenged.
She said, that's hesitation.
That is an
Right, Rufus, another point. You're doing well. And you've got 42 seconds to tell us something about apple bobbing starting now.
I went to my friend's house for Halloween, and he's a multi.
Oh, challenge.
He was too multi, sadly.
Yeah.
He was
such
too
a
much.
natural
I
thing.
couldn't remember if I'd said...
No, you said it the word before, that's probably...
That's where it sounded familiar to you, probably.
I know who it is. I've guessed who it is as well. Jonathan Ross. You went to Jonathan Ross's party. Has a big Halloween party, doesn't he? Every year you went.
To be honest, I just made that up.
Right, this is what this game's all about. Paul, you had a correct challenge. You've got 37 seconds. Tell us something about apple bobbing starting now.
I think of it as an American tradition. It may be something we did in this country for decades before our Yankee friends, but I have no idea. It seems to me apple bobbing. What is the point of this? If you've got a great big set of gnashers, you've got an advantage over your fellow competitors. You can put the whole barrel in your mouth and suck at the apple up down your throat. I've seen people do it. Mind you, they've earned good money doing other stuff. But I did say once to the man who was running the apple bobbing stall at a local fun fair, I said, "Where do you source your fruit?" He said, "Now, you'd be surprised. Pompeii is one of the places we go to. There's a multi-storey car park there that sells every kind of apple you could possibly imagine."
Well, Paul Merton gave a supreme example of keeping going in just a minute without hesitation, repetition, or deviation by bringing in some reference to the other subjects. Very clever. It kept you going to the whistle, gained you the extra point. You're equal to Rufus Hound in the lead now, and it's your turn to begin the next round. Pearly kings and queens. Tell us something about those Cockney characters in this game starting now.
Pearly kings and queens made a virtue of the fact that they didn't have much money by sewing shiny objects onto their clothes. Trousers, coat sleeves, legs of pantaloons. Everything was covered as much as possible in something shiny.
Rufus challenge.
Was it covered and covered?
Could be.
Yes.
I think there were two cupboards.
I think it was covered and covered. It wasn't a repetition.
It wasn't. To be honest, I wasn't the only one who wasn't listening, I know.
I think you're right, Rufus.
Lovely. Repetition.
Right. So, point to you. 47 seconds available. Pearly kings and queens starting now.
It always struck me that Pearly Kings and Queens would be the outfit that, if we ever had a British version of the Village People, would appear. It is an archetype, so we associate it with an area of the East End of London where the working classes chose to adorn themselves and increase...
Zoe challenged?
It was an ever so slight hesitation.
It was a hesitation.
It was a very slight. I feel almost guilty, but it was there, and this is a game, and I'm here to win it.
I don't think you feel guilty in this game. That was a positive hesitation.
That's right, lovely.
It may have been short, but it was positive.
It was, yeah.
Right. So, Zoe, you've got another correct challenge, and you have 29 seconds available. Tell us something about Pearly Kings and Queens starting now.
I've always wanted to be a Pearly King or Queen because I have nothing to do with all of those spare buttons that you get with trousers that you buy. I have a full drawer of them. They just sit there, gathering dust.
Jenny challenge.
There and there.
Yes, right. Well done, Jenny. Another point for you.
Petty, but...
18...
Yes. No more petty than my hesitation, so you can have that.
Extremely entertaining.
How many seconds have I got left?
18 seconds.
Oh, God.
Pearly Kings and Queens, Jenny, starting now.
They're hereditary titles, you know. If your mum or dad was a Pearly King or Queen, you get lumbered with having to sew all those buttons on to your own design. Full-time job. Also committed to charity. That's what they're all about. Give.
Yes. Paul challenged.
Hesitation.
I'm afraid so, yes. Her mouth went open and nothing came out. Paul, you've got him with 2 seconds to go. I think it's proof of your popularity in this game.
Yeah, but you've got to force it out of them, though, haven't you?
Paul, 2 seconds on Pearly Kings and Queens, starting now.
Pearly Kings and Queens!
So, right, we're moving into the final round. Let me give you the situation point-wise before we do. It's all very close. Zoe Lyons, who's played the game a few times, is in 4th place, but she's only 1 point behind Jenny Eclair, who's only 1 point behind Rufus Hound, who's only 1 point behind Paul Merton, and in that sequence we begin the final round with Jenny Eclair. It's your turn, Jenny. And the subject is a mouse.
A mouse?
A little thing that crawls around, or the thing you play on your computer, whichever way you want it. A mouse. 60 seconds starting now.
I saw a mouse. Where? There on the stair. Right there.
Rufus, you've challenged.
A repetition of there. I didn't know whether to hold out for clippity clop, to be honest.
Best to get in early.
You've gone in early, Rufus. You got a point for a correct challenge, and you've got the subject of a mouse starting... 55 seconds if you wanted, starting now.
A mouse is a rodent and viewed as vermin. You can do something about this if you get them in your house by phoning the council, who encourage you to contact them because they like to coordinate the effort to kill homebound pests. I repeated home, knew I had, was waiting for someone to buzz, no one did, then hesitation. Yeah. So whilst I know that I've lost the game actually, morally, I feel like I'm ahead.
I can't give you a point for morality, I'm afraid. Jenny, you had a correct challenge.
Oh, hesitation.
That's right. A mouse is back with you, Jenny. 38 seconds available, starting now.
There are quite a lot of famous mice in literature. For example, Mrs...
Paul challenge.
Was there hesitation?
Hesitation?
Do you think?
No, not enough.
No.
Not enough. And the audience agree with me, I can tell that. Jenny, not quite enough for a real hesitation within the rules of just a minute. So you have 32 seconds still available. A mouse starting now.
Mrs. Tittlemouse, for example. However, in cartoon, very big stars. Minnie and Mickey. They're massive. Also, there's the little Speedy...
Paul challenge.
We are slowly hesitating.
We are slowly hesitating. She didn't quite get there, though.
No.
I enjoy the keenness.
It won't be long, Paul. It won't be long.
I enjoy the keenness, Paul, but I can't quite give it to you, I'm afraid. 21 seconds, Jenny, is still a mouse starting now.
Speedy Gonzales, there's another one. Of course, not all mice.
Paul, you challenge.
Deviation. Mispronunciation of a word.
Oh, what?
Oh,
no, she pronounced that absolutely spot on.
I just said not all mice. I did a tiny hiccup in my knot.
You did a tiny hiccup in your what?
In my knot. Knot.
I always thought Speedy Gonzales was a chinchilla. Have I got that wrong?
Has anyone got Google?
Can anybody tell me where we are? Paul, your challenge was...
it was hesitation,
I think so, yes. Paul, you have 16 seconds to
How many?
16.
Oh, not close enough then.
A mouse with you, Paul, starting now.
One game that I remember seeing being advertised on television in my youth was called Mousetrap, and the idea was in the end to send all these various wheels and this ball circling round a route to trap a mouse right there. Mousetrap, one word.
Silly
Trap
challenge.
another word.
Zoe, what was your challenge?
Well, it was 2 traps, but I've been backed into a corner and I have to retract my trap. Is mousetrap one word? Yeah. Is it? I knew that.
So, Paul, an incorrect challenge. And you have another point, and thank goodness you've got 3 seconds to go. A mouse starting now.
I saw the paws in the butter. The footprints told me.
So, let me give you the final score. Zoe Lyons, who's played the game a few times before, came in a strong 4th place. She was a couple of points behind Rufus Hound, who was in a superb 3rd place. And 1 point ahead of him in an excellent 2nd place was Jenny Eclair. And only 1 point ahead was Paul Merton. So we say, Paul, you are the winner this week. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 delightful, exciting players of the game, Paul Merton, Zoe Lyons, Rufus Hound, and Jenny Eclair. I thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped me keep the score, and she's blown the whistle with such delicacy. We're indebted to our producer, Victoria Lloyd. We're deeply indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're very indebted to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre, who've cheered us on our way magnificently. Give yourselves a round of applause. So, from our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye, thank you, and tune in again when we play Just a Minute!